What's up, Growth Gang? It's your boy Trey coming back again for another freaking video, and it's gonna be a kind of a different one, right? I could go over the Ortex data, which really hasn't changed a whole lot. I could go over the call options data. I can go over the TA, but the truth is, you're in the middle of a new trend beginning phase, and I'd much rather kind of pass along a message and some feelings that I've got about this stock, and that's kind of what I want to focus on. But before we get into that, what is up, everybody? I'm with Trey's Trades. We freaking talk fast and don't skip class. I'm going to preface by saying I'm not a financial advisor or expert, so take what I say with a grain of salt. Let's get into the video. So before we get into the main thing that I want to talk about, let's start off here with just talking about what happened here today, right? The short interest didn't really change a whole lot. It's sitting at 18.77%. Not a huge change. It's based off of 85% of the exchange reported data. That's what you need to know about that sort of situation, right? Not a lot had really happened. Up 0.07%, 18.77%. Current short interest, a free float. That's what you're rocking with. And the actual stock price today, it followed a trend to some extent, but the movement of that trend, that's what I want to talk about. And that's what I want to get into more so in this video. But you got to bounce out of this demand zone, right? I was about 15-ish cents off on where I thought this would get some sort of hesitation or rejection. And that was at this zone right here. The supply zone mapped out right at about $48.80 or so. Rejected off of that and came right back down into that demand zone where you're hoping for a bounce back up, right? That's the bull case scenario, is you get a bounce out of that demand zone to have a new beginning of a trend, setting those overall higher lows. But what I want to talk about more so today is the price action. Right now, I want to point this out to you. I think back a lot on January, right? Why did I get into this play? Why did I start talking about AMC? Why did I decide to make this into what it is? And if you're new to the channel, right, you weren't here way back when I freaking started talking about AMC, I want to show you this. This was back on January 28th. What happened this day, right? You got this beginning awesome freaking squeeze up. It ran up to $25. Next day it came up to $22, and they got rid of the buy button. Now, if you're a new ape, maybe you're not tracking what that is. It's an asinine thing to think about, right? They got rid of the buy button. The entire way the stock market works is it's based on supply and demand of buyers and sellers. There's a huge influx of buyers that want to push a price up on any given day, So be it. Then the price goes up. That's the way that things freaking work with the economy. But they got rid of the buy button. They got rid of that supply and demand. So there was only supply. There could only be selling pressure instead of that demand to buy up that supply. That just shoots things straight down into freaking the shadow realm, man. And when that happened, my account got liquidated. I lost a piss ton of money. Back in the time, it might not seem like much now, but I lost a good freaking chunk of my net worth. I had about 40 grand in my account, and I was left with about $10,000, $8,000, and it sucked, and I was pissed. I was passionate about that, and I still am passionate about that. And days like today remind me of why I got into this stock, right? Now, there's a saying that I think is very interesting. It's that everybody is a slave to something. Now, why would I even bring that up right now? If you look back at the way that the entire stock market's been run, right? How does this whole beast kind of operate? The majority of big moves in the market up or down is decided by where big money decides to move stocks. Now, with AMC, it's a peculiar situation because about 80% of the free float is owned by retail investors. The retail investors primarily move this stock. But if you look at the entire stock market, right, where do the big buyers and the big sellers move prices? It's the institutions, right? They're the ones who decide the price of any individual security on any given day. Now, if you also think about where money primarily is focused within the country, within the United States at the very least, the majority of the U.S. economy's wealth is distributed atop the top 1%, right? The top 1% controls the majority of money that moves back and forth between anything. And that brings me back to everybody's a slave to something. Some people might be a slave to freaking nicotine. They might be a slave to alcohol. They might be a slave to their relationship. They might be a slave to anything, right? The retail investor for decades and decades and decades has been a slave to hedge funds. Now think about that. Why do I say that? Because if they get to decide on any given day the way the stocks move up and down, right? What does that mean? It means if they want to bankrupt a company because they decide that they don't want to pay taxes, they want to short it into oblivion, despite the freaking ramifications that it might have on any sort of retail investors, on any sort of retail workers, on real freaking people. They do it. They do it anyways because that's what they want to freaking do, and that makes the retail investors slaves to the hedge funds. Now that might sound pessimistic, but the reason that I say that is because that is the reason I got into this play. Was to make noise. That's why I stayed in this play. That's why I talk about it to this day. That's why I put myself out there to be a punching bag to all the people who are frustrated on a day-to-day basis, right? Retail investors, the apes, on any given day, right? When people out there are doing the Spider-Man meme, they're pointing fingers, they're looking at a million different directions, right? Where does this all derive from, right? It's not from you. It's not from the retail investor who had to feed his family, so he sold 100 shares or 1,000 shares. Even fuck, it could be 10,000 shares. That's not the guy. That's not the guy, right? It's these guys. It's the apes, not the apes. It's the freaking whales out there who ladder down stocks like this and scare the piss out of people who maybe just bought here at $48 for the first time. Maybe there's probably a new ape out there who bought $48 for the first time, and this was his experience. His experience was a literal straight ladder down freaking $4, right? Now, I don't throw around the manipulation word a lot. Back in the early days of my channel, when I was, to be frank, still learning a lot of things, I'd say it a lot. And I think, obviously, with AMC, there's a piss ton of manipulation and corruption. You've got freaking naked short selling, ladder attacks, the high frequency and algorithmic trading that takes place here. Some of the honestly hidden short interest in the derivatives market with puts, the freaking collusion, the infiltration, all the tactics that these hedge funds use to freaking try and drive the stock price down is disgusting. It's absolutely nasty. But this is just blatant, right? There's nothing natural about the price action of this sort of move. And I know I'm new, right? I've been in the stock market for a little over a year or so. And within that time, right, I've paid attention to a lot of things. I stare at charts for hours and hours every single day. These are not natural moves. It's not. You do not have this. Like, think about this psychologically speaking. Technical analysis is the study of the psychology of people. The emotions of people are being played out in front of you on a chart on any given day, right? Now, I do think TA is useful most of the time within the stock, right? I'm never, ever going to argue against TA being useful because it's predicted a lot of the big moves to the up and the downside. I've been able to do that through technical analysis, but there are anomalies such as this, where true, it did track the model that I kind of had mapped out here, but the path that it took to get there, right? It's just not natural. You just don't see this sort of thing. You don't see this sort of thing. It's because you just don't have a stock that's owned by 80% retail investors all flipping it the moment that it's at freaking decent highs, intraday highs, right? There's just nothing. There's nothing about that makes sense. There really isn't. No way you cut it. Even with that supply zone, which is where you'd expect rejection, you don't expect to see an exact ladder down, like a picture perfect fucking ladder down like this. And that brings me to how I want to close off this video, right? Everybody's got a why. Maybe you're an AMC to make some quick money. You want this to squeeze. You want to take care of your family. You want to go on a vacation. Maybe you want to just want to be a part of community. You want a home. Maybe you're an AMC because you just love movie theaters. For me, this is my why. And all that I do is I challenge you to think of your own why behind anything. When you get into anything in life, have a why, have a reason. And mine's very simple. My why is this sort of shit right here. Makes me mad. It makes me really mad because I'm in a situation where I can understand these sort of things happening. But there are going to be people out there whose first day in the stock market are these sort of interactions. This is going to be somebody's first day. It's going to be somebody's first day that bought AMC, and they get to experience this, right? The absolute blatant nonsense, you know? I'm never going to forget this sort of stuff. I'm never going to forget them taking away the buy button. I'm never going to forget people going on freaking Fox Business and CNBC trying to shill out a bunch of other garbage stocks that pull people away from this, you know? And sure, you can day trade different stuff and make off pretty decent, you know? But there are people who don't know better. And that's who they're trying to take advantage of. It's the retail investors out there, the new guys who are wet behind the ears. They're a freaking green bean and they're learning, you know? And they just fuck them. They do. And it pisses me off. And that's why this trade matters to me, because it stands against that. It's noise against that, right? It's people showing up to the plate to tell them, listen, I see this nonsense. I'm buying the stock. I like the stock. You're not going to make me back off from this, you know? That's what this trade is for me. It's a community standing behind a united cause, trying to fight for something that really should not exist in this world, in this U.S. economy. The entire U.S. economy, the more, this is how I'm going to close it. The entire U.S. economy, the more I dig into the stock market and I learn about things, was designed to keep people on the top. And if you want to change the way that the system's built, it's not going to be those guys on the top that do it for you. It's going to be you. It's going to be a lot of little guys. It's going to be a bunch of little guys coming together to deciding on their own, on their individual end, right? I want to make a change in my own life. That ultimately comes down to you, you know? Atypical video for me. I had some pent-up frustration that I wanted to share with you guys because I'm human and I have different emotions than just laughing and joy and this sort of stuff. But I just want to share that with you guys. It's have a why. That's mine. And that's what I've got for this video. So, blah, blah, blah. No spiel. Drop a like. Consider subscribing. Everything, my friends. Catch you on the next one. Lights, taps. Much love. And peace.